If you took this business model into a bank and said, this is what I'm going to do, the bank manager would look at you like you're crazy.
So we had no plan B. This is going to have to work because we don't know what else to do, really.
The only plan was to put a record out and sell those 1,000 white labels. Anything else is a bonus. So we've been running on a bonus for like 35 years. I've always believed in embracing technology. One thing that overrides everything is track selection and the record you play next.
The name, where did it come from? Utah Saints.
Although you are far of it, and now you'll always be near to me.
Hi guys, thank you so much for joining me on this week's podcast. I'll be really quick. 70% of the people that watch this podcast aren't subscribers. Podcasts are the hardest channels to build. I'd really, really appreciate your help just by clicking that subscribe button. It takes a few seconds and it's free. Thanks so much, and let's continue. So great to have you back again, gentlemen. Ibiza. So I was actually over there when you were over at Slip Back in Time, and I didn't come and see you because I just really wasn't in the mood. I was on the train to Gatwick Airport to get my flight, and all of a sudden my phone started just going ping, 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 and I was just like, what the hell's going on here? And I knew that there'd been an incident at one of our venues called Lunar Springs in Birmingham. But the thing is, the press got hold of it, and the press completely spun it well out of proportion. And everyone was saying, oh, God's Kitchen is going to be cancelled and this and that. And you could imagine what our socials were like and my email. And as I was on the way to Gatwick, I was finding this all out. So, and then I was sat in departures having to write an official statement saying, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. And I had a stag do in front of me, a hen do behind me, all pissed.
So when you wrote that email, you said everything's going to be fine. Was that you just thinking, I have no idea whether it's going to be fine? I hope it is.
I had no idea. I did and I didn't, because obviously I don't work in licensing, but the guys who work in licensing said it's going to be fine. And I'm just like, okay. It was hell because we were getting battered on socials. We were getting battered on email, people wanting refunds. And I'm just like, whoa, slow down, And it was just constantly on my mind when I was in Ibiza. I usually get
Understandable. Yeah.
I usually get a moped, and fly around the island, but just could not be asked. I was stuck in the hotel room, just trying to get through admin and like, hold on, what are we actually, because we obviously had to put a plan B and a plan C together, because we've got all these thousands of people coming. What are you going to do if we don't get the license? So we were having to put a thorough plan B and C together. In the end, it all went really well, and everyone had a wonderful time at God's Kitchen on the hottest day of the year. And it was just amazing. It was an amazing, amazing event. So we were really, really pleased. So it all come out with a nice silver lining in the end. But do you know what? This is what makes me wonder sometimes, like, why am I a promoter?
I think that's the thing. I think a lot of promoters, that I think there's a lot of misconceptions about promoters, and maybe back in the day you get the odd fly-by-night person who'd come in, put an event on, disappear with a bag of cash. But nowadays there's so many boxes to tick.
Yes.
We promoted in Leeds. Obviously, we had our club back in the day, the Gallery, for 5 years, and all sorts of things happen there that you don't prepare for. People think you just like put the publicity out, put a DJ on, and then walk away with loads of money. But that's not the case at all. And then we promoted every Saturday for 10 years in another venue in Leeds. So. And then we attempted to put our own festival on, which worked, but never again. Just because there's so many boxes to tick, and it's a very fragile business model. You can say if you put one big event on like you were doing, and
that's my current read, by the way.
What's that?
A guy who called George Bass. He's very cool. He's written a book. It's called. I think everything's coming the wrong way around, isn't it?
No, I can see it. I can see it fine.
It's called What the Bouncer Saw. And it's his book, and it's just obviously what it does. So I've just about.
It's just come out. It's just come out. It's a guy. Yeah, it's a guy who's really, really into his music, and at the same time he does security. He's a security person, so he's got a lot of Yes, could be interesting.
Yeah,
Fascinating.
so it's
Fascinating.
George is a full-time campus security guard at a busy university, working a shift pattern 4 days on, 4 days off to protect the next generation of professionals. Jones earns just above the minimum wage to provide for his family. What is it really like to safeguard the nation's young people? It's an engaging first-hand account from the underbelly of the security business, taking us behind the curtain of what it really takes to keep the city safe, while also providing for your family. There you go.
What a great idea, because they have stories. And what I've noticed from this podcast alone, it doesn't matter how big the guests are, as long as they've got stories. I don't know how these people do these UK festivals where they go out in a field and stick up a tent and risk all that infrastructure.
Yeah, we did that once, like as I said, 2016.
He did that.
We thought,
oh my
we
God.
thought, how hard can it be? And the answer is really, really, really hard.
How many nights sleep did you miss?
Well, that was it. In the week running up to it, because we did. This will probably a theme that'll come up a couple of times, but me and Tim both like to try and know every single part of everything. So
Good.
If the festival's happening, then one of us will go off and I had to go and do safety and health and safety and traders law and all that kind of thing. And Tim was getting right into contract law and booking all the bookings of bands and all.
And it was quite near. It was quite near Peterborough, and so I thought one day I remember just my mate driving up the hard shoulder coming onto the A1 and that, and he's like pulling over, put the hazards on, and I'm getting out, and I'm getting hammering like a poster on a board into the ground, and that was like so as Jez said, every aspect to taking getting quotes on the toilets and Jez was looking after the the catering people, and they were getting really cross with him and that
traders, cross traders,
like where the guy why there's like one guy and he's like, I'm selling my chips over here, why is somebody else selling chips there? And the coffee person,
crazy, isn't it?
A proper territory war and all this stuff.
Chip war.
You don't realize that goes on at festivals until and then if it rains or then people turn up late or there's not enough people there, then they start obviously losing the plot because they're not making any money and they're in the wrong position, or it's just it's endless. It is.
One last thing is that we hadn't made the distinction between a company that controls traffic and a company that controls parking. So it turns out that we booked in a traffic company because we had traffic management getting on and off the site and so on. But we only found out on day 2 that they didn't do parking when we went in the parking field, and it was just chaos because people were parked all over the place. So that was a thing. So it's a learning curve, and you learn not to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, we luckily had some great support up in Birmingham from people who knew the triangle, the Digbeth triangle. We cordoned off the roads, and we had all that business going on, and we had a licensing specialist and all this stuff that we didn't have to generally deal with. But yeah, without them, it was. But they kept saying to me throughout the day, "It's running really smoothly." I'm like, "Stop saying that. Please stop saying that." Yeah. He knows I know I shouldn't be saying this, but yeah, it's right. And the owner was like, "Yeah, this is good. And I'm just like, okay. And then the reviews we've had have been spectacular, and so it was worth it. It really was. But if you were right, if you took this business model into a bank and said, "This is what I'm going to do," the bank manager would look at you like you're crazy, wouldn't they? Because the risk is absolutely phenomenal. The amount of money you have to put up front now, and it obviously we have this problem with the last minute sales now, and so you're not getting any huge amounts of cash in until right at the end. So you have to. It's just risk after risk.
And the thing is, as well, it's one of the only businesses to say. When you're booking a DJ and you're speaking to an agent, and then say DJ is like £5,000, for like one of the you really want this DJ to play, and you're speaking to the agent, and it's the only industry where if I'm spending £5,000, so if I'm going to go and buy a car for £5,000-10,000, right, I'll go into the dealer. The dealer's going to be really nice to me, make me a cup of coffee, and he's going to talk to me and try and sell me the car, and the whole experience for me should be quite pleasant, right? When in this industry, when you're spending that sort of money, you're getting abuse and
It's
and a
crazy,
hard
isn't it?
and a hard time off the agent and like really rude.
Sometimes, not all agents,
Not
not
all
all
Not
agents.
agents,
all
but
agents.
but,
And
do you know what I mean? It's like it's on their terms, not on your terms. When you buy something and you spend the money, it's kind of on your terms normally, but not in this industry. So it's kind of like you've got to be really nice and you've got to tick certain boxes. And yeah, like Jez said, not all agents, but I've had that experience quite a lot. And I'm thinking, why? I'm wanting to spend money with you. Why am I getting a hard time?
it's such a big problem at the
yeah,
moment. You've really hit on a point there, Tim, because I've noticed it, not just in our genres, but across the field through techno and everything. It's like you're spending a ridiculous amount of money, and then all of a sudden they'll add something on, and then they'll add something on. They'll add another hotel or 2 flights or this and that. And I'm just like,
yeah. So I
is
want
that
to buy it. Yeah, for
is
example, I want to buy this Ford, and you go, yeah, and then they go, yeah, you can buy this Ford, but then you've got to add this add-on cost, and you've got to buy this car. We've got another car for
with the
£1,000
trailer?
with a trailer. You've got to buy the trailer. You've got to do this, and then we insist you spend £500 on this service, and you've got to have this. Do you know what I mean? And that's the kind of equivalent of it. So you're right, and there's lots of like little. So you got the basic fee, and there's lots of extras, and yeah, it's hard. And the thing is, for me and Jazz, the only good thing is that we wear 2 hats because obviously we're the artists as well. So
Yeah,
so when something comes in, we do always try and see it from the promoter's perspective, rather than just one-sided. And I think, obviously a lot of people don't, because like they don't see the other side. But having booked DJs and having put things on, I think we do try and have an open perspective on it, and look at when we go and play a venue, think, right, what's the ticket price? How many people can they, how many people they need to get in, and everything's kind of gauged towards that. We don't just pick a random figure. It might be like a Thursday night, and it might be a club with 300.
yeah.
We go, right, and if it's £10 in, the maximum that's going to come in on that night is say £3,000. Then the venue has to be paid, the production has to be paid. And then you think, right, so you've got to make so that everybody gets a slice of the cake, and it works as an event. Then your fee can't be £5,000 because it's like,
Yeah.
and it's a Thursday night, so you've got to like factor everything in, and I think that's a lot of people don't do that.
It's so refreshing to hear you say that, because most people don't give a shit, and I think that's why a lot of the smaller promoters have folded, and a lot of the clubs have struggled, because it's like you are literally giving the artists and then the add-ons more than you're going to take on the door, and if you're not taking the bar, you're absolutely screwed. And there's very few clubs. Well, a lot of clubs now are trying to do that, and they're cutting out the promoter. Now, with what I've seen, obviously it's a little bit different in Ibiza because they've just got such huge power, like the Ushuaias, and they put on all their own nights. And Pasha, who've done it for years since Danny Whittle was there, he started moving the promoter out and then promoting themselves, which was like the start of the superstar DJ type thing, being the brand. But yeah, the problem is when you start removing the promoter, you remove the community that comes with that promoter, and all of a sudden it's not being promoted properly. So even if you've got a really big lineup, who are you promoting it to? It might not be promoted properly. It might not get to the right people, and people that might not be invested into that brand. So I've seen loads of big nights with really big acts in Ibiza and in England and it's been shit because it's all been in-house.
Yeah.
And they haven't got the bandwidth to go and promote them as an independent vertical within their business. And I think that's dangerous when they start removing the promoters. I don't know whether you agree with that, but
I think, yeah, I would agree with that. I think that again, it's easy to overlook every single part of a night out, and we, again, when we had our own place, and when we've promoted nights, we've made sure that we've been on the front. We'll stand on the front door. We'll go and look in the toilets. We'll go and help if somebody needs some help wherever they are in that club. If someone needs some help cleaning something up or behind the bar, we'll always try and recognize what's going on and try and help out if we can, because it on our own nights. Just because every constituent part is important to whether or not that club's night's going to continue
Absolutely.
the next week. So for example, a lot of people will overlook security on the front door and not go and talk to security, because security need to know what type of people are coming, what type of people, what they might be wearing, what sort of attitude they might have, what state they may or may not be in, and where to draw lines around that kind of thing. And we can all help each other. We've always seen it as a communal effort, and we're all for collaborative working to make things work, and we're all, at the end of the day, everybody's kind of livelihood is at stake about that night working properly. So we all have to get on, and we all have to kind of understand the direction to travel. That's how we've
Absolutely. It's the correct way.
Yeah.
Funny enough, you say that the first people I go and see are the security, and just see what vibe they're on. Because you can get to a club sometimes, they're a bit moody, and you're like, oof. So you've got to but in Birmingham, they were just so lovely. It was just result. Got a cool crowd for you. And also any form of disabilities, we make sure we personally go and meet them so they don't get freaked out at the door, get anxiety and stuff like that. And we walk them in, because some of these queues can be rather daunting. As we've been told, like they get there and they just they want to go home. Let's go moving on from our last interview when it was about the Utah Saints, and we spoke a lot about your event. What date is it again?
Yeah, the 20. It's coming up soon. It's the 26th of June, and it's in Millennium.
It's soon, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's
you're getting excited.
Yeah, but it's again, it's like going back to a promotion thing, because me and Jazz have put our name to it, and we're curating everything, and it's backed by the council. We're not just going to rock up on the day. We've been shooting loads of little videos and doing talks about Leeds, and just getting involved in the whole promo thing on it. It's like, and it's really hard, and just getting across to people, and and obviously now you don't have so many posters and flyers around town. Everything is online, so it's about making content. And I find especially like things like TikTok and that, I found it a complete lottery, because you can spend 4 hours editing a little 30 second video just to put up, to try to promote the thing that you want to put up on your channel, and then and that has 500 views, and then you can just take a little clip in a club when you DJ and on your phone like that, and put it straight up and think, I'll just put that up and it'll do 30,000. Do you know what I mean?
It's crazy, isn't it? It's hit and miss.
And you can do all the back end, hashtag it right, everything, try and do it the best time of day, and there's no right or wrong way, really.
There is no way, not anymore. Unless you have massive socials, and even some of these pages that I look after have got massive socials, but their reach now is just terrible if you put the wrong content out, and the algorithm changes all the time. But I think the way to get over that is volume. You push more and more content. It might not be as good as like a really well defined, edited, high definition video. I think that's the way we've got through it, is just push as much content as possible. Let's go back to the beginning. Was there ever a point where Utah Saints was never going to happen?
For me,
I don't think so.
No, because I think both me and Jazz always kind of, when, and this goes through to everything, when we're taking on a remix, a gig or whatever, I think we didn't kind of have a sit down serious discussion about Utah Saints, but any time we do something, we always kind of like, once we've kind of committed to do it, we kind of think, yeah, it's going to work, and there's no thing it's not going to work. Whereas, but the difference with Utah's is it happened very fast, and it was completely organic, because there wasn't a plan. There wasn't a plan for it to go, say, the first record to go top 10. The only plan was to put a record out and sell those 1,000 white labels.
That's right. Yeah, you mentioned
get the money and do the next one. So and that's where it started. And so anything else is a bonus. So we've been running on a bonus for like 35 years.
It was like a happy accident.
Yeah.
Well, we had no plan B, really. I mean, Tim set off with his DMC championship thing. I'd always made music since I was sort of at school, and DJed as well, and so we had no plan B at all. We were just like, this is gonna have to work, because we don't know what else to do, really. That was a thing, and it was just we both, I feel like we both had to do what we were set out to do. And so for me, I was really driven by trying to make music, and I can't speak. Tim was really driven to be a DJ, and and make music, and I was driven to make music and be a DJ. So we had slightly different possible ambitions, but they locked up with Utah Saints, so we could both use Utah Saints as that vehicle, you know, for not having a plan B.
Okay, so you just said something then, Tim, really, because I've heard this a couple of times. When people get really popular really quickly, how many tracks did you release before you went into, like, you started doing Top of the Pops several times, and that was a really quick rise. Once that first track really popped off, were you then worried about following it up?
Yeah, because we went out very fast and did the PAs, did some PAs, you know. And when you used to do like rave PAs, we kind of go like, you do like 10 or 15-minute things. So we had like 3 tracks really. We had like the hit and then another 2 tracks, and we kind of made that into PA, and then we kind of like, we did that for like 6 months, and we were that busy. We didn't really. We started to get questions from the label, how are you going to follow this up? And then,
This is it. That was what
yeah,
that's the pressure of that. The label would get involved.
and I guess, yeah, because it was a year really between the first and the second, so we kind of took a time. And I think there was a point where we just went into the studio for 2 weeks and thought, right, we're going to try and come out with something. And that was when we went in. We had like the idea of the Kate Bush thing, but we literally went in the studio, and it came together in that period of time.
Yeah, so basically, we're not very good at being told what to do. so we've been told, like, oh, you need to follow up, you need to follow up, you need to follow up.
Just like the first one, please.
Exactly. It's exactly the same as the first one, only different. And a lot of acts that had their tracks out with the first one, like we had the second track out, and maybe it was a bit rushed and it hadn't quite got the same vibe to it, and people were still playing the first one, so it didn't have as much space. So I think our label had more or less given up on us after the first one and thought, well, they're not going to come up with anything. And then we did something good, and then we took that in, and that surprised them. So we like 2 things: we like surprising people, and we don't like being told what to do.
And you don't like being rushed as well, especially with music and ideas. Because I've been listening to a lot of your music recently, actually, since we had the podcast. And you've got this very, very particular sound to your music. You always know it's you guys, I think, anyway. And the name, I never asked this question. Where did it come from, Utah Saints?
Well, it was a random thing. It was the end of there's a film called Raising Arizona with Nicolas Cage in it. And Holly Hunter.
Yes.
And at the last line, he just says, maybe it was Utah. And just the way he said Utah, I thought that's really, like, we thought that's an unusual word, and it's not used that often. And we bounced it back and forwards a little bit. And then the Saints bit just came as to try and make it sound like a team. Like, band names are really hard to get. Metallica nailed it, and after that, every other name is inferior, because Metallica did exactly what it says on the tin, and so I've always been envious of that name. But I think Utah Saints just came around as a kind of a random selection of words that made sense to us as like a team thing, and it sounded like it would work in terms of people remembering it.
Certainly stuck, isn't it?
So my advice to any DJ now starting, or a band starting doing dance music, would be going back to what I said earlier about the agents and booking DJs. When you put the artwork in for the flyers for an event, and you have to get the artwork approved, then you get a big. You've probably seen it many times. You put the artwork in, and then the agent comes back and goes, no, so-and-so needs to be above then, and then,
Yeah.
and then. So what you basically end up is, you probably end up with one headliner, and then everybody below it is A to Z. So if you work it out with Utah's, right, if you don't look at the small bit where it goes artist A to Z, then we end up quite a lot of time low down. So we're in a tier of about, could be in with 20 DJs, but on the poster it looks like we're at the bottom of the poster, because you. So you need to be called A1 Taxes.
Yes.
if you're a band.
You know what? I've actually spoken to some people who've actually deliberately made their name like ABC D, you know, so it can fit in with that, or a number. You know, there's some numbers out there now that kind of, but they get chucked at the bottom as well. So it's a double-edged sword.
But the reverse to that is that when that's only come to fruition in a lot more in the last few years. But when we were selling vinyl and CDs in the shops, we were next to U2.
Oh,
We were the biggest band in the world, so it had its kind of pluses and negatives.
yeah, and this still goes on. I would like my artist to be one font bigger, and things like that. I don't deal with it. Nick has to deal with all the listings and stuff. And he's obviously goes back to the Cream days of Creamfields. Imagine doing that. And I think they must have been one of the first to do the A to Z, because it was just getting out of hand. It was literally impossible to put a flyer out because you've got so much input coming in, and I think then they just like, so okay, we have like the massive headliner, then everything else has got to go A to Z, and I think that's what everyone had to agree to in the end, because it was just becoming a war zone of fonts and positioning, and how long they've been in the industry, and
We still get, even if we put a flyer in with artwork A to Z, we still get somebody in there going, our artist needs to be above the A to Z.
don't get it. Do you? Do you get it though?
No, it's like an ego thing, and I think what it is, if you look at it from artist side, it's like other promoters, when they're booking DJs, they go and look at a lot of other people's lineups, and then what you can do. So if you booked a DJ and they cost X amount, and then you want to book another DJ and you see them in a lineup and they're on a similar thing, then sometimes you can gauge what they would cost, what their value is, as a starting point, and that's why. So if you push yourself above that, then your agent can go, yeah, but they're headlining this festival, and that's how they push the money up, and the money keeps going up and up and up, because it's where you've seen in the brand and your brand and where it is on a lineup.
Yeah. And it is everything to them. I mean, it's a deal breaker on some shows.
Yeah.
It's literally broken deals for us. Where it's just like we can't get the agents to. I mean, this hasn't happened for a long time, but in the past, I know where we haven't been able to come to an agreement, and someone's had to come off the show. I mean, that to me is nuts. And these aren't small shows either. These are like quite prestigious shows over in Ibiza, and it's just like, or in the UK. How important was Leeds to you in shaping what you guys became?
So I think Leeds was really important for us because we met there, and we were we didn't realize it at the time, but we were at the epicenter of rave taking off in Leeds. And so we were running 4 nights. We made a first album, and all the first 4 hit singles were all made in Leeds in a little studio down behind the station. We were plumbed into the music scene here. We were really aware of bands that had come out of Leeds before us. Like most of them were a lot of them were guitar bands. So there was things like Gang of 4, Delta 5, Mekons, and then also through to Soft Cell. Coming out of Leeds, and we were really aware of the club history. The Warehouse Club had got a big history of there's a DJ there called Ian Dewhurst. He used to get all the big American edits of disco music and play that in the Warehouse before Rave arrived. And so we were really aware of that, and it gave us a perspective on what was happening elsewhere. Really, we weren't in the music industry as such, was very London centric at that point. And so we weren't too caught up in that. We were able to sort of dip in and out of that as and when we needed. Probably worked against us a little bit in that we're not naturally big party people anyway in terms of going to industry parties. But because we weren't in London, we didn't meet everybody we perhaps should have met. But at the same time, being in Leeds definitely gave us a different perspective on everything.
That's actually my next question about the northern dance scene and the London music industry, because at the time it was like 2 different worlds, wasn't it? What was the difference between them, do you think? Do you think the London scene kind of underestimated what was going on up north? Because I was very much involved in London scene, and I never went out of London. We didn't need to. There was so much going on. We would go to Kent maybe for like some of the big raves, or south, but I'd never go up north for some reason. It never even occurred to me.
I just think everybody had. I think when you look back on it, because you'd get people going. I watch a lot of old documentaries, and people go, "Yeah, it started here, or it started here. We were the first."
Yeah.
And I just think that simultaneously around those times, there was a scene going on in most places, and
Yeah, exactly.
and like you said, there's a scene going on in London. Then you had the whole Manchester thing with the hacienda. For us, Leeds, the good thing about Leeds was it wasn't. There was no kind of pressure for it to be against anything, because a lot of the focus, I guess, was on Manchester hacienda and then the Blackburn raves, and then you had in London you had the whole sort of all the raves around the M25 and the big illegal parties, and I think with Leeds there wasn't that massive kind of focus. Leeds kind of came into his own a little bit later on, when clubs like Back to Basics started and
Yes,
and
that's
like
when
that.
I went to
Yeah.
Leeds.
But that, initially, I'd say there wasn't really any pressure on Leeds, so it was just kind of doing its own thing. But I'd also argue that then there would be places like I used to go to events in Scotland with Jez. Our first PA was a place called Street Rave, and that was in Air Pavilion, and a guy called Ricky McGowan who now does Colours, and he does a lot of big events in Scotland, and he was doing stuff like really really early on, but that doesn't always get talked about. So I think everybody in every little city in town around the country had a little scene. It just, when history is written, it just focuses on big blocks.
It hit in my eyes. It hit at the same time because it all revolved around a certain drug as well, and that just flooded the country at the same time. And I don't think any particular. I mean, maybe some of the sounds were a bit more prominent in some places, like the drum and when in drum and bass, and that was like stuff that happened, I suppose. But everywhere had its own thing.
I remember when we were doing things like Street Rave in Scotland. We'd be, now you would not see these lineups, but you're on the same lineup. You would have like Groove Rider, you'd have like Sasha, you'd have Dave Seaman.
Yes, yeah,
and you'd have Graham Park, or all like back to back, and it'd work because the music like flowed. But you'd never see a lineup now, because you see Sasha's on being on a lineup with Digweed, and it'd be a whole kind of progressive event, and then you'd see Groove Rider, and he'd be on a drum and bass thing.
Drum and bass, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it says
the genres are very individual now.
Yeah,
aren't they? Yeah. I do. I remember when I used to see lineups like that, and I brought this up before. I've got a Carl Cox tape from a rave he did. He did like a 6-hour 3-deck thing, and he played everything from garage, hip hop through to techno, all in one set. And it was just amazing. I'll never forget that tape. I mean, it was in 1995. It was. And it was
so what you kind of, I don't know if you saw any of the recent Carl Cox shows when he was doing the Prodigy.
Yeah, I've seen bits of those. Yeah.
So that was kind of why the people go, that set's so good, is because that's what he was doing back in the day. And so it wasn't him trying to recreate; he was doing those sets. Do you know what I mean? And he was playing those records. And now, so it's really good to see, because it's like an education for the new generation. But that was happening at the time. Like, Carl Cox would be playing like the Trades Club in Leeds, which is in Chapeltown or something. Do you know what I mean? It was like just crazy thing. And, and all these people were playing raves every weekend all around the country.
Yeah. A lot more of them. I mean, looking back, is there any particular decisions that changed everything for you guys?
Yeah. I think we made one decision after about 18 months in, that we were going to stop doing PAs at raves and start presenting ourselves as a live band. We knew that this music could work, as it had similar dynamics to bands that were on festivals or in doing gigs in independent venues or those kind of things. So we wanted to make that decision, and we made it really early doors, to be honest. So we can still remember going from kind of the top of the rave circuit, where we literally rock up, turn up, try and plug something in live, but it was just so chaotic that then you end up doing 10 minutes or 15 minutes doing the hits, and then you leave and go on to the next one, and that's fine. But I think we've always felt a little bit like, can we push this a bit further? And we thought we could, so we just kind of stopped doing that. And we went, and the first gig we got offered was Slough Festival, which was headlined by someone like Dexter Jones or something like that at the time. And we were on in the afternoon, and we were really worried about it. So we took Wayne Hussey, who was from a Leeds band called The Mission, along to do a couple of tracks with us, to give us a little bit of nod into the kind of indie crowd. And we went for it and it worked. And we just thought, right, this works as a band thing. We haven't got a singer. We've got all the vocals coming out of samples. We're playing a lot of electronic stuff, but it works. So how can we take that forward? So I think that was a big decision that shifted us, the perception of us. The downside to that was we then didn't fully fit into any particular scene. So we didn't, like a lot of the dance kind of scene maybe thought, oh, they're trying to be more indie, and a lot of the indie scene thought we were maybe trying to be too dance or whatever. We were just doing what we thought we should do, which was use our saints. So that's that changed a lot of things for us because it got us into a lot of different areas and that perhaps wouldn't have done. That said, had we done that move 3-4 years later, it would have been fine because by that time, Chemicals, Fat Boy, Prodigy, and everybody had arrived into that scene.
You were kind of one of the first. Now, I'm going to ask a really dumb question or a simple question, not dumb question, simple question, because of people listening. And I know what a PA is. I know what a band is. What would you define as the difference, just for people who are listening and watching?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so a PA is basically it's called a personal appearance. So it's more of the fact that you're in the room. Generally, with those kind of setups, most of the music is on backing tape, and you're kind of there in the room, and you might do a live vocal, or for us, we would try to do live bass and some live scratching. Tim was doing some scratching over the top, and we tried to get the drum kit in, but in the context of a rave, generally, because of all the other music that's happening, it can be difficult, a technical challenge to get that to happen within the 15 minutes. So it's sort of, it's less kind of live. And then you go into a festival with a band, we then got a chance to plug in the samplers, plug in the computer, and a drummer. And that got us on tour after that, we went on tour with the Shaman around America. And then we got the U2 gigs. And so, it pushed us into that territory, which did change a lot for us. Yeah.
What a move, because you were like one of the first then to do that. Because then obviously the Chems come along and that was after you, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, that was after us. The Chemical Brothers and Prodigy, they just framed it differently and went, "This is what we do," and it worked. However, the Shaman kind of came before us, I would say. The Shaman, or just before us, because I was in a band before Utah's called MDMA, and we were.
My God, you wouldn't get away with that nowadays, would you?
Well, there's a long story around that of why there isn't any Acid House records released under the name MDMA, because we had the name before Acid House kicked off. So we had the name. And we'd been on tour with the Shaman just around some kind of really small venues just before either of us had any kind of major success. So it was really nice that we managed to reconnect a couple of times. And they, that the Shaman sometimes do get overlooked, but they paved the way for.
I was a massive fan of them, but they were unbelievable because they obviously blew up on Top of the Pops as well, didn't they? And TV and in the charts. So would you say that was quite a big risk that you took as well? Like that was like a big. It's a big decision, but it was a big risk at the same time.
I don't think it was a risk because I remember, and we were doing these like just as PAs. We were doing them, and we were maybe doing 2 or 3 a night, and we weren't happy because it just didn't feel, we didn't feel comfortable doing it. And I think that probably towards the end that would have come across in our performance. And because we weren't the conventional other PAs we would watch that turned up, and now it would be really simple, like they'd have the singer there, and because we had samples, and it was like we had 4 or 5 of us on stage, and we couldn't all like get the sound going right. And I just think we weren't. It probably towards the end, as we were trying to make it better ourselves, it wasn't coming out better because it was probably coming out worse. And I think we weren't. I remember doing a couple of raves where I just thought that we can't do more of these. So it wasn't like a conscious decision. It was like we had to make the live thing work we felt to have longevity in our career.
and it's chaotic as well to get it all set up. And
Yeah.
I imagine, because I even nowadays when a DJ has got a completely different rig, like a
Yeah.
live rig, to another rig, we've got to have a completely different desk that rolls in or is carried in. And I've seen some of the amazing equipment. Have you seen some of these sliders that they've got
Yeah.
now? They can just slide and stuff
Yeah.
across, but that's rare, you know. But sometimes we literally got to lift in, and it's still difficult. And also, you find that PAs, if the PA doesn't get it right, it can be a bit of a showstopper as well.
Yeah, because thing is, you'd have a DJ playing, and then the reason why I think, you know, a lot of times when we do a DJ set, we will kind of we kind of reset the room if we need to, and play a little intro, but we won't. You know, we're in a club where we'll mix out, and we'll keep the vibe going, and so when you do it a PA, everybody stops, and then it's reset again, and it's like it's not always to me, it's not always good for the event to do that.
I've seen it in Ibiza where they've had a great track that's out, and they'll bring the singer over, and the singer will do the vocals, and it's just so not in keeping with the actual energy of the crowd that it will literally, like, people will be like, huh? And it really makes the atmosphere dip. And then to try and get that back again, it's a struggle. So I know that we've been really cautious on who we've booked over the years to do things like that. We do a couple for Kevin and Perry and things like that we know are going to work. But yeah, we're really worried.
For example, something like K-Class, I think that K-Class do it really well because put, like, you know, they'll DJ, and then a few songs in, they'll bring out Bobby, and it's just it flows, and it's on the vibe of whatever's going on, and so they kind of know what they're doing. But when you just stop it, and it's like, you know, you bring something
random.
And it sometimes it can not be good, and I understand why brands do it, because sometimes like we're going back to events and posters and promotion, you know, they need to kind of put something on the lineup, and that name or that record may be big at the time, and so that kind of gives the event some pull. But whether it actually adds to the event and the quality of the night is a different thing. Equally, I see, you know, I see DJs as well, and I see things, people turning up now, and it sometimes it completely amazes me that I've seen people turn up and they you know, I've got like a wallet, and I've got about 5 USB backups, and Jazz has got a backup and everything, and so we just carry multiple things, and I've seen people turn up and they've got one stick, and they put a stick in the thing and it doesn't work, and it's like and they've got no backup plan, and so
that's crazy.
When we go and do something, we always try and have a contingency thing. So if that doesn't work, then do that. If that doesn't work, do that. And I think you've got to be adaptable. You know, unless you're Calvin Harris, who kind of has somebody go in and set it up.
The sound check, we do a lot of sound checks.
We do go down when we do often go down to sound checks now and check out the PA, and you know, so if doors are at like 8 at night, and we will go down at like 6 and with it for an hour and just set everything up, and we do find when we do that, the actual thing later on is better because we've kind of checked everything.
Yeah, we always do that. And especially like something amnesia, we would always get there in the afternoon and make sure everyone's down and happy and settled. It's quite funny that you mentioned about the USB thing, because I work with a couple of artists, and I grill it into them, like, bring 3 or 4, give one to me. We've got I know you sent your visuals over, but we'll have it on a stick anyway. And they're like, they've got so much stuff, and then the husband's got one, and I'm just making sure, and even they bring the laptop, you know, because you just never know. How many times have you heard like people getting their bag nicked and things like that, or people leaning over and just taking a USB stick or something like that? I've seen that happen, and so I'm just trying to explain to some of the people that I work with that you've got to not just have 2, you've got to have like 3 or 4, and then you've got to have one for your visuals and one for your all the stuff that we have actually sent the agents and the promoters. I actually make sure we bring it physically, because you know, when that information, you always give like like a link or a Dropbox links or whatever to a venue. Can you? Is you relying on that third party to have that organised?
A lot of times you get there and go, we didn't get the, you know, and you're standing on the stage, you're about to go on, and if like you've not got your visuals, and you're like, did you get the visuals? No, nobody's sending through, and you're like,
Happens all the time,
yeah,
all the time.
you have everything on a backup on a stick, and
Everything,
yeah,
everything.
and then
And
you give one
I've
to your
got
friend.
them.
Yeah,
If I'm going to the show as well, I've got them in my pocket as well as the artist. So yeah, I mean, that's for another one for moving on. I was just about to go into becoming how easier or how more difficult it is now. Has technology made producers and DJing more creative or easier nowadays?
I just think technology's made it's very different. I mean, I don't miss the days of when we used to take Serato out. And we used to, and you go on after a DJ who got a tractor. That was it's a completely different software with a completely different box. We used to have to change that over live and get loads of buzzing noises and stuff in the middle of a full club. But generally, technology's made it. It's different. It's a different way of working now. Creativity wise, you have to put your energy into thinking of things that haven't been done ever, and
Wow. Yeah.
not your own take on things, kind of thing. So back in the day, you had limitations of samplers and synthesizers. You could never quite get them to sound quite how you wanted to, so you had to do a lot of work getting the sounds right. Now it's a bit better, although the problem is you've now got thousands of sounds to plow through to find what the one that you think is going to work. So I think from a creativity point of view, you have to think, where am I going to put my ideas? And whereas the ideas used to go into the sound palette, and now they go into a slightly different area, really. And then technology wise, from a DJ point of view, I'll let Tim speak to that, because that's Tim's come out of basically the whole vinyl thing with it being a DMC champion right way up to where we are now.
I want a champion.
Got the whole journey.
I did all right, but yeah, it's weird because I see a lot of things on Insta at the moment and TikTok, and people going, these 5 things you need to do when you're DJing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you go, the most important 5 things, the most important 3 things when you're DJing, and it goes number 3, it goes beat matching, and then it goes number 2, scratching, and it, and I saw there was one guy the other day who put up this thing, and it said, who does scratching in 2026, or who uses the crossfader? That was it. It goes, who uses the crossfader in 2026? And I'm thinking, well, I do. And then it's like, but my point being on that is, it's like the one thing that they miss is like, nobody goes, the record you play next, right? And I've always subscribed to that. And I think I've always believed in embracing technology and with DJing and like moving with the times and being on top of it all. But one thing that overrides everything is track selection and the record you play next. And if you've got all these other things that help you make it sound better, or little tricks or whatever, that's
Right.
that's
Yeah.
a bonus. But it's what record you play next, and you can't teach that to somebody. It's just that becomes, for me, over years and years, just like knowing your music and listening to lots of music and just getting a feeling off music, a vibe off the music, and being able to think, on your toes. It's like when we used to DJ, you spend on vinyl, you go out and DJ on a Saturday night, and you take maybe one flight case, and that flight case had 90 tracks in it. You might have all that music, and you spend an afternoon, you'd be selecting what I'm going to play tonight, and you take those 90 records with you, you go into a club, and you live or die by those 90 records.
And it might not be the right crowd.
It might not be the right crowd, but if it's not the right crowd, within those 90 records, if you're a good DJ, you can probably get together a set that's going to work. And whereas now you can just go rock up at a venue, and you can go, yeah, this crowd's like the one I played in 5 weeks ago in this venue, and then you can go to your playlist and go, well, that's what I played, and you can just, do you know what I mean?
Telling your history, and everything. Yeah.
The technology is a great thing, and it makes things a lot easier. But to me, it's everything's about the record you play next.
Weirdly, I'm glad you said that, because it is something that's not talked about. It's always like, you got to do this, and James Hype does all these tricks and blah. But we upstairs at XOYO Birmingham at God's Kitchen, we had the roof terrace, which was house, which was Babushka.
Yeah.
Jason Hurd and all those sort of guys, very housey. And I walked up at one point and I can't remember what it tuned. It wasn't even house music. And I thought, this is so cool. And it was just a totally different vibe. And everyone was just loving it. Older crowd, know their music. And I just popped my head around and it was Jeremy Healy. And I thought, of course, you know, someone who knows their music. And he just played completely different. Like a lot of the tracks he played wasn't even house music. It was just really beautifully, perfectly for the hot weather out. Open air, because it looked over the arena as well. So, and I just went, yeah, he knows his stuff. Regarding sampling, is there a particular sample that you're most proud of that you've used in a podcast? Because obviously you guys have just smashed it with samples.
I think we're proud of all of them.
Yeah. And that's why I hate asking these favorite questions.
It's tricky. I mean, basically, you know, obviously we were so honoured to ever clear a Kate Bush sample, because she's never cleared anything before or after that. So, and that was a massive game changer for us, that sample. So we'll forever be indebted to her and that sample. That said, and now there's other things where we're kind of proud that we've got things to fit. You know, just it was tricky getting a Metallica sample to fit, or you know, or a Slayer sample to work within a kind of dance context. So I think we're just we're really proud of all of it, I guess.
Yeah, for me,
sorry for not being more specific.
No, this is why I never ask these questions.
To pick one track, I would probably pick the actual sample. We did a track called Las Vegas, and it was on our second album, and it had a vocal line from Chrissie Hynde from The Pretenders, from a track called I Go to Sleep, and it was a kind of little line out of the verse, and she was really cool because she gave us, this was before you can do like the stem separation on AI and you can separate the vocal. She actually sent us a little DAT cassette, which was, you know, a little
with a part
kind of digital cassette of the a cappella from the track I Go to Sleep, and then we messed around it in the studio, and we used this thing called a vocalist, Digitech vocalist. It was one of the first ones that came out, and it was like a weird random kind of setting on the thing, but we got a really, really good vocal from it, and it really flipped her vocal to the stage where it's completely unrecognizable as Chrissie Hynde, and even on the melody is different and the vocal sounds different. So people to this day, when I say that's Chrissie Hynde, are freaked out. And that track was it wasn't a massive hit, but it was a big hit in the underground. Like, you know, Tiesto played it on his, it was one of his favorite tracks he did on his famous Magic 7 mix. And it's often talked about. And even on our Instagram the other day, I put up a little clip where a guy goes, "This is the most expensive record I brought." And, you know, so that's probably one of the tracks that I'm most proud of.
We've since re-recorded that sample as well, because it was so robotic that we wanted to get a slightly different feel on it. So we got another vocalist to redo it, and we play that out a little bit as well now.
Nowadays, music-wise, you obviously it never leaves you. You're still producing. How often are you releasing new music?
That's the sole point.
Is it, or have you just been too busy?
Yeah.
Well, we're really slow at putting our own stuff out. We'll do remixes we just remixed a track. I think we might have mentioned it last time for Saint Etienne.
I think it's coming out in September, and that's cool because it's like I think they'll be their final album, and you know, and it's got some.
They've done a track called "Glad" with the Chemical Brothers and one of the people from the band Doves. They've done that track. We remixed that, and that's coming out in September. So that was it. We're currently working on a couple of different remixy things, and we've just done a bit of music for a film for that Jason Bradbury's putting out.
Jason did it. Jason used to be on the Gadget Show, so it was worked out Birmingham, and but he's just done a Kickstarter thing, and I went to school with him, so that was kind of the connection. We kind of both grew up in Lincolnshire. We used to ride BMX bikes back in the 80s, and he went on to do tech on the Gadget Show, and I went off and to do the Utahs with Jez. But he's just done a Kickstarter thing for a movie about AI, and So it's like done on, I think he had to raise 50,000. So he's made a movie for 50 grand about AI and pulled loads of favours in from his mates. So me and Jez are helping him out with some music. So little things like that are cool. And it doesn't feel like we actually just don't do music, because like when we go out and DJ, we're always like re-editing tracks. And
Yeah, I guess you were. Yeah.
So we're making like edits and stuff like that all the time and dropping them into our set. And when we're that busy with DJing at the moment, and it's like we want to be on our A game for the festivals and that we do spend like time putting things together and making things. So it doesn't feel like we haven't been releasing music, but it doesn't feel like we're not making music.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I mean, talking about all the equipment and having to set up things, and we've obviously talked about chaotic moments and things. Have you ever had a technical problem? Is there anything that really stands out that's gone wrong? And it's just
There's loads of things go wrong. Just over 35 years. There's we once did the 051 club, I think, or it might have been Cream, one of the Liverpool clubs, and Dave Beer from Back to Basics was our tour manager.
Yeah, you said that.
And he just got slightly carried away and came on stage to do some dancing and kicked out we've learned not to do this now, but the only socket. He kicked the plug out of the only socket that was powering all our equipment. So everything went down.
About 4 or 5, like the 4 bars, had probably 4 or 5 all chained together. Like, so it's about 20 things come off one thing, plugged into the wall at the back. And
fire hazard.
And Dave,
in other words, yeah.
Dave managed to kick that out. That didn't come out. And
we had Leeds,
and absolute silence.
We did the Reading and Leeds Festival, and we had a really important gig and it was a Radio 1 stage, I think, and the sound guy just made it some
we had Edwin Starr with us as well, didn't we?
Yeah, doing a vocal, and it was like a brilliant setup gig, and tent was packed, and we just had multiple sound issues, and everything just went down. And that was a bad day for me. I remember that was the only day probably in the whole time in the Utahs that I've completely lost it, and I threw a can of Coke at our manager, and it just exploded.
It wasn't Dave still, was it?
Huh? No, one day.
No, it wasn't Dave that point.
So, I mean, what does it feel like when that happens? I mean, because you feel helpless, you're completely helpless, aren't you?
Yeah, because when you do a gig, obviously, and you're on the stage, it's like it's all the same now. It's like you're still, at the end of the day, you're sending your music down cables to somebody else who's controlling it.
Yeah.
So, and it's out at that point. Once it leaves you, as long as you do the best you can to send it, it's out of your hand. So there's no point in getting stressed about it, because you just think, yeah, I'm sending you the best signal I can. If you're messing up, then you mess up at your end, then that's you take the responsibility. But if you send the music as best you can, the right quality, and not even when you're DJing, it's like you're sending it perfect, then after that point, it leaves you. There's nothing you can do. So you just have to hope that the team around you are on it.
I worked with the guys, some of the guys that worked with Deadmau5 and Calvin Harris when they were first discovered through 360 Group.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which of the guys told me this, but it was either Calvin or it was either Deadmau5, and they were wandering around this. They had a big gig. And he was nervous, and he was just having a conversation. What are you most scared about? And I think it was Calvin. He said silence. That's the one thing he was more scared about. Something going wrong, and it being silence, like something cut out, and it's just like, what the fuck? And that was his greatest fear. So
yeah. I mean, it's a very stressful environment as well, because everything's so loud and full on. That's kind of occupied everything. So when you have to put your mind into some kind of technical thing, that can be problematic. I remember once in Birmingham, actually, we had to go on. We went on after James Abelia, and he'd been doing a lot of. He's a great DJ, and he'd been doing a lot of tricks, but he'd left the PA panned over to one side, and we hadn't realised. So we'd started, and the noise was only we hadn't realised that the noise was only coming out, that all the music was only coming out of the right hand side
because of your monitors.
Yeah, because the monitors were working.
Yeah.
And then about 10 minutes in, we realised what had happened, and we put the pan. Used to have a pan knob on one of the mixers, the older mixers. We put that back to the middle, and it suddenly got really, really loud. And the PA guy, unfortunately, the PA guy just thought we were incompetent and just absolutely went into meltdown with us. And he's probably still cross with us to this day, thinking we were trying to blow up his PA, which we weren't. We'd literally just tried to put it back into stereo, but he thought we'd suddenly hike the volume up and stuff and be unprofessional about it, which we'd never do because we were experienced enough
There's
not to do that.
simple things to happen. It can happen so quickly. Moving on to club culture, do you think the festivals I know we mentioned in our last podcast that you're doing a lot more of the smaller events and enjoying them. Do you think the festivals have become like the more prominent? Everyone's going to festivals now, and that's where it's dragging the audiences.
I think festivals are a shortcut for a lot of people to say I've seen a lot of bands. So you can go to one festival and go, I've seen this band, that band, this band, this DJ, that DJ, and so on. And you can kind of tick that box. But if people want, it's a different experience. Festival, I think there's a general kind of kudos in going, I'm going to a festival. Perhaps that there isn't quite associated with a club yet. But I think as clubs evolve, I think there's a little bit of a gap between what the consumer wants and what clubs can deliver at the moment. And that's nobody's particular fault. It's just, it'll take a little bit of time for everybody to catch up with the tech involved and all that. Because I think there are some clubs which can provide more of an immersive, and I know it's a buzzword at the minute, but that kind of more in the moment experience. And I think that people will gravitate towards that once they realize that's what's going on within a club, where you've got communal moments. And a festival, you do have those moments, but it's perhaps a little bit more diluted.
Festivals have been really good for us though, because people have seen us at festivals, right? And then like when you just mentioned that obviously we were doing some of the smaller shows, like so people will have seen us at a festival play for an hour and then they've come to see us at a show playing for 2 hours like 3 months later because they saw us at that festival. So we definitely seen ticket sales at our little smaller kind of intimate gigs improve because we go in at festivals, and people who not necessarily would have brought a ticket to see us initially have then brought a ticket, which is great. So we found it's been really good for us.
Just to add to that is I don't know, it might be before your time, Dexter, but the back in the day, I can remember flyers used to put the production on the flyer as well. So you'd have like Carl Cox and as we were saying, Carl Cox
sound system.
It would have this type of sound system, and it would have lasers, and it would have like full laser show or whatever it was. And I think that kind of thing was actually a bit of a pull because people go, oh, that's going to sound better, it's going to look better, and perhaps that's something that needs to be revisited in a promo.
Right. You're totally right, because I remember when I went to World Dance and they had this special new lighting that was a big circle thing. Circular lighting. I don't know whether it actually worked properly, but we were so excited about seeing this brand new laser lighting system. And then I went to, I think it was a Helter Scout, I don't know, one of them, but they had this laser set up where the laser was bouncing off different mirrors, and it was just what they'd done is they'd played, I think it was like LTJ Bookham had been playing very intelligent drum and bass, but they'd been just slowly filling the arena up with smoke, the dry ice. And then all of a sudden this light come on, and it was just one green laser, and it just went all around, and no one had ever seen anything like this before. And it was just like, holy, and the place just went incredible. And I think he dropped it to it obviously is one of his most famous tracks, and it was just a real moment. But you're so right, if you do look at those flyers, they have all the production elements on there.
Always at the bottom we go 10k sales.
And the phone numbers on the back of the ticket shop and stuff. So if you just Saints was starting from scratch today, would you do anything differently?
The only thing that maybe we'd do is I think it's good to be diverse in the music you put out, but I think you shouldn't be. I think I'd go be more consistent in one style and then do it an album at a time rather than put 5 different styles on one album. And that's reflected, like we were saying earlier, about back then, like you would have Carl Cox and you'd have everybody on the same lineup, and
Yeah.
that was we were kind of quite diverse on the styles of music we made. But I think now people like to categorize things and they know what they're getting, and so I think if we did it started again, I'd kind of probably go till we change styles a bit more. I'd probably be a bit more consistent on one style of music. That's all.
Okay. Obviously, you guys have created a legacy now. So, just say in 50 years' time, what do you think people say about the Utah Saints? What do you think they say about your music and approach to dance music?
I say we were part of a group of people, of acts and bands who were quite creative and innovative with sampling.
Yeah.
But not. I don't want to take any, because we were influenced by other people, and all music kind of is, I think. So
Yeah. I think you've got you had some balls as well to just go with what you felt was right for you.
Yeah.
Like
I think we've always done what we thought we should do.
Yeah.
And kind of been real with it. And we had, some people do things because they want to do them, and some people do them because they have to do them.
Being influenced by other people to do them as well.
Yeah.
Like labels.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And we've always done what we felt we had to do just for ourselves, kind of thing. And we wanted it to work, and we wanted other people to think it was working.
No,
so I think that was what we said.
That's really admirable, because all the way through this, I've seen that you've just taken things at your own pace. You made decisions to go from the PA to be a band. You haven't produced music all the time when you thought you have to, and you're being rushed. Because I do know that some people I've spoken to have actually released tracks that they didn't want to release after a big track. And it's just like,
I mean, we don't want to put out music that we don't feel is us, basically.
Yeah, and you look back on it and go like, oof. Do you have a, outside of Utah Saints, let's finish this off. Last question. Would you have, if you had to play one final tune to end the night, is there any one tune that sticks out for you?
That's a textbook Utah's, because we would so say we had to do that, and you said, right, can you go to this gig, and you got to decide on the last track, right? Then me and Jez would probably do a Zoom call and discuss it for an hour.
We do, we do, like, at least an hour.
Yeah, and we procrastinate about it.
So that's great, because some DJs can literally go, yeah, no problem. 50%, well, 30% maybe, and the rest of them haven't got a clue.
We'd probably both write down 5 tracks, and then see which one turned up in the same thing, and then two of them may come up, and then we'd narrow it down out of that. And
I think we'd also decide at the time, because we'd have a selection of maybe 10, and then decide at the time, because we do. None of our sets are kind of pre-planned. We've got a rough idea of what's happening, but we need the energy of the people in the room, because that works for us. We do actually, somehow we manage to process a bit of that energy from and work out where to go with tracks. So I think we probably decide on the night.
Do you never pre-plan anything? No, it's all on the go. Yeah,
we know things.
You have a rough idea.
We know things that work. Yeah, rough, but we don't go right. We're playing this record to start. We're playing this record to finish, and we're playing this record for X amount of time. It's like, everything's on the fly, because it's like when you turn up at a gig, it's like, the DJ on before you. I think it's always important to see the DJ on before you and get there an hour and a half before, if you can, an hour, watch what he's playing, and then so say your first 5 records might be, just say for argument's sake, be his last 5 records. All right, the amount of times I've seen DJs go, well, I'm playing my 5 records, even and they repeat some of the records, and it's a real big ick of mine. Is like repeating a record that somebody's played in the set before, just because you've got a different version or you've got nothing. No, go with the flow, and a great DJ like adapts to the vibe that's going and carries it on, and so that's why we always go. It's got to be on the fly.
Perfect ending, guys. I want to thank you for the last couple of hours.
Brilliant, and I hope
nice one, Jed.
All right.
Yeah. Hopefully next time I'm in Ibiza, I'll be in a better frame of mind.
And if we're ever in Croatia, then we'll hit you up as well.
Absolutely. You guys take care.
Thank you.
Take care.
See
you.